Now, Saturday's drone attacks on Saudi Arabia's oil facilities have triggered a sharp jump in global oil prices. Oil futures opened 19% higher, jumping as much as $11.73 a barrel to $71.95. That's the single highest day increase since futures trading began in 1988. Now, Riyadh is racing to restore its oil production, which has been slashed in half after drones targeted the heart of its energy industry. President Trump has authorised the release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to keep the markets well supplied if necessary. Let's speak now to our economics editor, Abid Ali. Abid, so how significant a moment is this? Because markets, obviously, by definition, they go up and they go down, as does, of course, the oil price.
Absolutely. So what we've seen over the weekend, especially on Friday night, was an audacious attack on the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. Now, these missiles or these drones had to travel 500 kilometres, whether that was from Iraq or whether that was from Yemen, undecided yet. Whether they were drones or whether they were cruise missiles, undecided yet. But nonetheless, they hit a facility in Saudi Arabia. And that's a huge story because you have so many defences in place. Patriot missiles are sitting there for this kind of event, and yet they were not triggered. Maybe it was because of the low-cost design of the drones, but nonetheless, they hit their target, and this is a result. This is the reason why we're seeing a premium in the oil markets right this very moment.
Right. So that's the geopolitical situation, which of course is spooking the markets because they're looking ahead and saying that tension is now ratcheting up on a pretty regular basis, incrementally. The bellicose language that we're hearing from Donald Trump and others is adding to that fear. But what about the actual oil supply today and for the next couple of weeks? Because, of course, Saudi has had to halve the amount of oil that it's producing on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So the Saudis have got an oil reserve of about 188 million barrels. Now, some of that is stored in Rotterdam, Okinawa, and just off the coast in Egypt. So they can tap into this and supply the market. There's no threat to the market not being supplied with enough oil. We've been through a period where basically the global economy is slowing and there's less demand for oil as it is. So the US has somewhere in the region of 700 million barrels of oil stuck away in its strategic reserve. China has about 500 million barrels of oil, and other nations are been told by the International Energy Agency that they must hold 90 days worth of oil just in case there's events like this. Obviously, nobody predicted an event like this particular one where there's an attack on a facility, but nonetheless, just in case there was some shock to the global system, that they could tap into these reserves.
So there is enough oil in circulation at the moment. So why then is Donald Trump promising to dip into his strategic reserves in order to keep supply up to appropriate levels if necessary? I mean, isn't this just adding to the sense of panic?
So we need to see at which point did he put this tweet out. Was it after oil prices spiked by 19%? If that was the case, and it looks like that was the thinking, it's just to reassure the markets, hey, listen, if the market needs any oil, and that was a big if in his sentence as well, then we are ready to supply the markets. And that's just a reassurance, because the other thing to remember is that it's not just traders who are trading, it's computers. They're reading through social media posts and they're picking up news stories and they're saying, OK, oil prices have spiked because of an attack. And then they see this other tweet from Trump saying, there's plenty of oil. And so that helps the logarithms to calm down a bit because they say that's the tweet from the President of the United States. But when he says, we're locked and loaded, that's a geopolitical risk, and that just adds to the price pressures.
So what does Saudi Arabia need to do now to take the heat out of the situation?
So Saudi Arabia basically has been not behind the curve, but they've responded in good time to say, listen, we need 48 hours to assess what's happening with oil supplies, what's happening in our facilities, and it looks like they're going to be able to return a third of that supply by today, and there should be an update either today or tomorrow to say exactly what they think is happening with their supplies.
All right, Abid Ali, thank you very much.